y'all, it's Kelly Meerbott, host of Hidden Human. I am so excited for you to listen to this episode with Karla Trotman, CEO of Electrosoft. Her accolades are way too long for me to list, but take a look at her LinkedIn profile. She's also a mom, a wife, third generation entrepreneur and business owner. We cover everything from the EOS system to breaking down silos within an organization to being a woman in a male-dominated field to our taste in chocolate. So take a listen and here you go. Let's begin our conversation with Karla Trotman, mom, wife, business owner, and according to Cecily Kellogg, my good and mutual friend of ours, you are just a badass lady. And I am so grateful that you are spending your time currency with us. Welcome, Karla.
Thank you, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So you're a mom. And if you were going to explain to me as a 6-year-old child in a way I can understand what it is that you do, how would you explain that?
I run a company that makes electronics for other companies.
Okay, great. So if they're, all these kids are digital natives now, do your products show up in anything that they would use today?
If you open up any electronics device, you will see boards, like a green board with parts in it, cables and wires running through it or connecting power to it. And that's what I build for other companies. They give me their drawings. They say, hey, can you build these for us? And we do that. But we do not do it for like consumer products. It's mostly industrial and military defense products.
Gotcha. Well, that's another connection. My husband's a 20-year veteran of the Navy, so we appreciate you helping our men and women in uniform.
In the Air Force, though.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, thank you for your service.
And thank your husband for his service.
Yeah. Well, I always like to acknowledge the families because I think they get forgotten a lot. And let's be real. You and I being active in that community know that the military families are the necks that turn the active duty service members. Yeah. So, okay. What was it in your soul that called you to the work you're doing today, Karla?
It is actually my family business that I took over. So I had no desire to actually work in manufacturing. I think college really prepares you, and even before college, high school says you're going to go to college so you can get a great job, so you can be in the C-suite. And so that's what we're programmed to do. And we don't pay attention to the fact that most of the companies in the world are small business and family businesses. We really created a pipeline from school to corporate America. So I just really, I didn't want to work for the business. It's just because, again, I think I wanted this beautiful job in the city where I wore nice clothes and rode the train every day and just this amazing lifestyle. And it wasn't until your parents are like, oh, it'd be great if you take over the family business. You're like, never. But my life changed. You get older, you have children, and then legacy starts to mean something. Working for people who don't love you takes a toll on you. And you begin to see the possibilities of taking something that your family has created and taking it to the next level. So my passion became really about legacy and the fact that we're in an industry where you don't see people of color and you definitely don't see a lot of women running and owning businesses.
Yeah, I was curious about that because especially with what is going on our national stage, there has been a lot of rhetoric, old school rhetoric, right, around sleeping your way to the top. Let's use black jobs, things like that. So
diversity hires.
Yeah, diversity hires, and it's 2024. I mean, I'm not shocked by it. Let's be real about that. But it's exhausting. And for you to be in such a male-dominated field, especially with the military, especially in manufacturing, how do you navigate that? Or here's a better question. How would you tell young women that look like you how to navigate it, how to prepare them for what the manufacturing landscape is like so that more women of color, more people of color, more underrepresented communities enter manufacturing?
So I think that because I was made aware of all the barriers ahead of time and I'd seen them growing up, I wasn't really turned off by it. It was just a challenge, a workaround, something you had to figure out. And it's not always a universal approach to it. So, for example, I was paying bills the other day and my dad's old American Express business card came up and I was like, I teased him. I'm like, why am I still paying this bill? You don't work here anymore. Like, oh, I'm sorry. That bill, I've been using that card. I actually used that card to start the company, which is a business no-no. In business school, they tell you use other people's money, OPP. And he's like, no one would give me a business loan. So we used our own money and we used credit card to start the business. And that's the story for a lot of people of color. So I even had an e-commerce store. And when I started that business, even with the logistics degree, working in supply chain for however many years, business plan, people really don't give money to startups like that. And then I wasn't in that environment to know about really pitching for capital or who to pitch to. So it was self-funded. And quite frankly, a lot of people of color know they're going to be rejected for bank loans, even when they do have businesses. So they tend to not go for loans. So knowing that those barriers exist, I told myself and I tell other people, you're probably going to have to go to more banks than you had anticipated. And it'll probably take a lot longer and the rates may be a little higher, but it's definitely possible. So being aware of what you're up against is just a challenge, but basically challenges are just to really see how bad you want it.
I don't know if you saw or you were at the Pennsylvania Conference for Women when Shonda Rhimes interviewed Michelle Obama. Shonda Rhimes opened up as the morning keynote, and I'll never forget this because I agree with what she said. And it was, people would ask me, what obstacles did you face in Hollywood? And she said, and you and I all know that what they were asking is what is it like to be a Black woman in Hollywood? And she said, and I didn't really face obstacles because I didn't go, this is an obstacle. I didn't label it that. And I find that once you know the landscape, but you don't label it a challenge, it's not a challenge. It just is. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Even people who don't look like us, who are majority in this country for now, they face barriers as well, just not the same. They have a little bit more access, definitely. So no is just, it's part of the journey.
I mean, I remember when I started coaching in 2009, one of my initial coaches, Steve Chandler, used to say, collect your no's. Like for every 8 no's, you're going to get 1 yes. Just collect your no's. He's like, see how many no's you can get in one day, because what it becomes, you become desensitized to it, right? You're like, and another coach of mine used to say, some will, some won't, so what next?
I believe in self-care, but I also believe that sometimes God plants this idea, this fire inside of you, and you have to go after it no matter what. It's just, there's something in you that forces you to go harder than those around you. And even if the people who love you are telling you no and to slow down, it's all well-meaning, but you have to identify what it is you're going after and not take no, or not really listen to people who may have your best interests at heart to go after what you want.
When I started my business, my family was like, you're doing what?
Mm-hmm.
Why? But I don't understand what you're doing. I'm like, Dad's a professional athlete. Y'all should know what coaches are. Like, this is not, well, what qualifies you as a coach? And you're going to do this in the worst recession ever. And when people tell me that, Karla, and I'm wondering if you have this, I feel like you have the same fire, but I'm not going to make any assumptions. But when people say no to me, I'm like, oh, okay, just grab your popcorn and watch what I'm going to do.
I want to blow up your LinkedIn feed with all the amazing things I'm about to do that you told me I could.
Can you share a pivotal moment in your career that significantly shaped your leadership style?
I bought my family out of this company in 2020. So January of 2020.
You're kidding.
I just bought my forever home, and all I saw was, like, in my mind, bankruptcy, living in a box. What I realized was like I always say to my friends, like, no one's coming to save you. So you're going to have to figure it out. And my husband has a corporate job, and all my friends do. I have a few entrepreneurial friends, and I'm in a CEO group. And at that point, and this is the group that when I wanted to join, my dad's like, why do you need a group? He's this same man who joined a CEO group by a prestigious name and walked out because he's like, I have better things to do than listen to other people's problems. Like, he's very much a lone wolf. I'm more of a group think. Let's think this through. Am I thinking this correctly? Let's use all of our resources. Let's quicken that learning curve. I'm not going to waste my time doing something someone else has already figured out. So that group, leaning on that group. So that was my instinct, to still stay in the group, lean on that group, use my resources, identify, how do I want to communicate to the staff who has always been under the leadership of my father? Now I'm only I don't know what to really say. So I'm telling them, this is what I know. This is what I don't know. This is what we're doing. And so that was consistent communication every week. And it was really I don't want you to think you're going to lose your job, because, I don't want anyone to lose their job. And thankfully, nobody did. We were able to keep everyone on. But being connected and really following my instincts in a way that I'd never done, really digging deep. And it's when you're on that cliff and you have nothing else to lose, your real self shows up for you strong. And that's what COVID really did for us. And there were times where our clients had pulled back and said, oh, don't ship yet, because they didn't want to pay for something that they weren't going to use because their orders weren't ready or being taken up by their clients. And I really had to think okay, what can we do? We solve problems. So we shifted and started making face shields to help frontline workers, because we're manufacturers, we fabricate. From there, we wound up, somebody said, oh, you're making face shields? Let us donate money. So we started getting money in. So when you start leaning into those things, what can I do? Again, your real self shows up, and then miraculously other people come and want to help. And that also helped keep the business running and kept cash flow coming in during that time period. So it was really, I think once we got back on track, I really felt like there is nothing you can throw at me at this point that would make me feel like we were going to fail, like we did when COVID came.
Well, I think two important points that I want to illuminate about what you just said was three actually. I'm standing there in March or in February, oh, this has been a fun ride. I guess I'm going to be shuttering my doors. And then the military came along and they were like, do you want to coach and teach high ranking officers about emotional intelligence and emotional well-being? And I was like, yup. So, for me, it was the same thing. It was okay, if COVID can't kill us, nothing can. But one of the things I noticed was a lot of leaders calling on me to do webinars about how to stay calm when the world around you is falling. And one of the things I would say to them, which you did so beautifully, was don't lie to your people and pretend you know what's going on, because nobody does. And they were like, well, what do you want us to say to them? Here's what we know. Here's what we don't know. And you bond in the ambiguity, which you did so beautifully, right? And then the other story about pivoting to face shields is the other thing I kept talking about was innovation doesn't mean creating something brand new. It could be doing something new with something old. So, bravo. I just think that's amazing. Cecily's right. You're the third intro of people that she's introduced to the podcast, and everybody's been amazing. Just amazing. So, and that's a reflection of who she is as an individual. So shout out to Cecily Kellogg for being a great human. And she's probably cringing in the background because she doesn't take compliments very well. Cecily, for those of you who don't know, is in charge of my brand. She does social media. She does marketing. She's high level strategy. She's just Amazing.
Like we talk social media, like that was social media before we knew what it was going to be called. Or she's like a pioneer, but like not in the old people sense.
In the digital landscape sense,
Yeah.
because Cecily and I, just as an aside, and we're kind of on the Cecily like mutual admiration society right now, but I was living in Norfolk, Virginia before we moved here because my husband was stationed there, and we moved here in 2013, and I started following Cecily on Twitter, I think in 2010. And we started communicating then, and now, fast forward, she's been working with us, well, on and off for almost 10 years, and she's just awesome. But and we love you, Cess, if you can't tell. So how would you describe your leadership philosophy, and how would you say it's evolved over time?
People always ask me that, and I'm really about just treating people with common decency and respect, and being in alignment with our strategy, the direction we're going in. And I think that when I came into my family business, I realized we didn't have some major cornerstones, which were like core values, mission. And I think once we went through that whole exercise of creating, like, this is who we are, this is where we're going, this is how we treat one another, this is how you'll be promoted, and put in a whole structure of equity where there's like banded salaries. So like women weren't making less than men. This is what it takes to get to the next level. So it wasn't so arbitrary. And it wasn't, and I don't say all these things to fault the amazing structure my father had built. I say that because a lot of times when you have a business for so long that you don't really realize you're really running a business. You're so entrepreneurial. You're wearing so many hats that you're just trying to like pay the bills. You're not thinking about, okay, what are our core values? Like, even call that the touchy feely stuff. So no one's stepping on one another's feet, or people who aren't in alignment with how we're going to treat one another. They need to leave, and we need to get other people on the team that want to believe the things that we believe in, go in the direction we want to go in. I'm not a big yeller. I'm about KPIs. I'm like, why didn't we meet this mark? Well, how can we fix that? Just like, so I think my style is just a calm, like, this is the way we're going. This is the map. Let's go.
It sounds collaborative too, because when you're talking about this CEO group, you work well in collaboration with others. Is that fair to say?
But I still have that thing inside of me that's implanted in my mind and my soul of where we're headed. And I do need that support. But in the end, all it is advice. I have to pick the direction. And so I would say that I'm more decisive. I do take in collaboration, but I make the decisions.
I'm smiling because you are like the living embodiment of the ideal leader that I try to help my clients get to. Like,
Oh,
yeah, I mean, really, you're saying all the right things. But I'm wondering about a LinkedIn post that you posted. It was about an unreasonable employee that left and then wanted to come back. Can you speak to that a little bit?
so in the post, I'd mentioned that employee worked for a while and asked to be in a particular role. They were given that role and was frustrated in that role. And the way that we've reconfigured our management team is that, like, I need to be more outward facing and deal in sales and business development and the structure of the business. I have a vice president who will now oversee all things internally. And then underneath him, there's an actual supervisor of people. And there's other supervisors like your quality or, just other areas. So before me, there's like two different layers before you get to me. And that's really because I want my people to be able to, like I said, have their own swim lanes and be over with, like, they don't need me to jump over them and usurp their authority. This particular person wanted to quit, slid a note under my door, sent an email to other folks saying, thank you, it's been great. It's been 7 years. I really learned a lot. Thank you. This is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And the letter was beautifully written. It was definitely like one of ChatGPT's best. And
well done, sister.
Yeah. Like, okay. And I didn't go to talk to him. I just said, hey, it's going to be this last lane. Make sure you do an exit interview. I'd love to know what's going on. And he left. The next thing he emails us back and he's like, me, not anyone else. He didn't want to talk to anybody about why he's sleeping. He just like left. I was like, okay, that happens. Sends an email like, hey, can I talk to you? And this was like 2 weeks after he quit. I'm busy. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody about anything really, because we gave you the option. Actually, before he left, I pulled him in. I forgot that part and talked to him like, hey, where are you going? Is there any way we can support you? Other people talked to him. He didn't want to talk about where he was going and what he was doing. He said, I'm uncomfortable. I said, fine. So now he wants to come back and talk. So when you're no longer an employee in Electrosoft, you don't get unfettered access to me in my work time because it's not related to work. So I get about 3 or 4 emails, and one of the supervisors, I guess he called her, and she's like, he really wants his job back. I said, okay, well, you guys deal with that. That's your domain. If you want him back, then fine, but I'm not dealing with this. And I think part of it for me is that he's a lovely person. So I'm not trying to be disparaging, though I was about ChatGPT. He really is just not a writer.
I'm dead.
The point is that you have to sometimes divorce yourself from the emotional side. And as a mother, I'm always trying to like coddle people, even though I have young employees that like take trains and ride bikes to get here on dangerous roads. And I'm like, no, this is a decision. This is the way that they're going to do it. I'm not a mother. I'm a boss. I'm a manager. I'm an owner. And sometimes I have to remind myself of these things. I just want to make sure that the message that we send is consistent. Like I've said before, like this is not a revolving door. It's like one of those doors where you hit the bar. It's a release bar, and you can't get back in because there's no handle. But under certain circumstances, I guess you can allow people to come back in, but that's for them to determine.
Well, what I'm wondering, because I have a couple of clients that are struggling with this, what are some specific action steps that they could take at home to break down some silos in their organization?
I really look at myself as a manager of or a conductor of an orchestra, let's say. And I just had to make sure that we can pay our bills and we can meet the needs of our customers, and really take the ego out of it. The ego is like, if we don't pay our bills and we fail, that's worse than any. That's like the worst thing that you want to happen. For silos, I believe that everyone should. So I believe in meeting cadence. Okay. So when you have a meeting cadence with your team, they're able to talk across the work that they're doing. And it's not that they're just operating within their own business sector. So within electronics manufacturing, you have someone who manages the people, you have people who are managing the product, you have someone who's managing quality. And the way that they report is that people who are manufacturing the product cannot have anything that they can't be over quality. Quality has to sit by itself. And so while it is its own silo, we all work together to meet the needs of the customer. So our KPIs are, and the way that they are given bonuses at the end of the year are relying upon one another. So you can't be in a silo if you are in quality and you're not working with the supervisor to make sure the material comes to quality so that it can go out the door. So it's a consistent conversation that they have. So we do level 10 meetings, and that's part of like EOS system.
Oh, I love EOS. I love it. I love it.
We're actually doing the scaling up, scaling up. And part of it, why I like scaling up a little bit more than EOS, is that there's strategy in scaling up. The one-page strategic plan is just like killer, but there's so many great tools in EOS, like the level 10 meeting, like the 15-5. And then you bring in a little bit of the, I have the book on my shelf right now, and I'm like, what is called top grading. that allows you to do scorecards. And on the scorecard, it tells you, like, this is what winning at this job looks like. And in my company, you can't win at your job just sitting in quality because you rely so much on the people that are doing the work. And when you have all of those things, like, this is what this is what we need to hit as a organization, and this is how we win together. And you have everyone talking and figuring out the strategy on how we're going to do it together. It really easily breaks down the silos because they have no other choice but to work with one another. Because everyone wants to do a good job. I honestly believe that. I believe that everyone wants to hit the goal. I believe that everyone, well, at least they should. I mean, the ones in my organization should. I mean, that's why they were selected. So I think that another reason why silos happen is that sometimes you're the wrong people there. And somebody wants to act like this is my domain and no one else can tell me what to do. And this is how we've always done it. And we're not trying to get better. That maybe that person needs to leave because they are not really buying into the organization. They've really only bought into themselves.
Just to give our audience some context that don't know EOS or Scaling Up, and I love their one straight page strategic plan. In fact, I've got Scaling Up. I think it's probably back there.
Yeah, my bookshelf.
I know. And of course, my little like OCD mind is like, that's not color coordinated. But can you give us a little context around what a level 10 meeting is? Just define it.
It means when we meet, we're going to meet over KPIs, old business, new business. It's the same agenda. And everyone knows what they are in charge of bringing to this meeting. So it's your dashboard. Ours is on-time delivery, how much units or dollar value shipped. It's like people you're dealing with. What's your rock? Your rock is like the thing you're focusing on. And it's so helpful because if you don't have that meeting cadence, and that's the other thing, we never had meetings. My dad wasn't a big meeting person. Meetings, if they're meaningful, can really help the organization. And that's what it created, that level 10 has created for us. It allows people to talk where they normally wouldn't talk. It starts out with good news. And it's a personal yet innocuous question, like, what's going on in your life? I've asked people questions instead of good news, like, what was your first job? And it causes you to kind of laugh and then get to know one another better. So it's a way to kind of break the ice for teams that really don't work together. So I love the level 10 meeting for that. 15.5 is really like, it's just kind of like an update of what's going on, like a one-on-one. If you don't have time to really meet, we've kind of digitized it so that you can do it on a form if I'm traveling, and at least let me know like what's going on. And it's also almost like a stand-up meeting. We believe in long meetings. I don't believe in wasting time. We sell time as electronics manufacturers because we don't make product, like have a product. We sell our time of an expertise to other companies. So if you're sitting there in a meeting, you're not getting anything out the door. So we try to make it meaningful so that's like, okay, what happened? What's the problem? How do we fix it? So there's really great tools out there. And then the top grading that I mentioned has a scorecard. Again, it gives you a KPI for a key process indicator. If I didn't mention what that was before for anyone who doesn't know, of how you're doing as a company. So ours would be on-time delivery, units shipped, units in the pipeline, things that are due, past due. And everyone that's on my management team owns parts of those KPIs. Now, we own all of them, but some people drive them and some people pull them, and they're in charge of that. So with top grading and a scorecard, you're able to use that scorecard to not only rate how somebody's doing at a job, because it's like a red, yellow, green. So this is, you don't want to be in the red, obviously. Yellow as far as hitting your goals in your particular role. If it's developing people, if it's decreasing some type of quality issue, that's, you set together those goals. But there's also personnel traits, professional traits that are red, yellow, and green. red being, it's so hard to find them unless they're an 8. Yellow is something that you can kind of train. Green is like definitely something you can help someone get to. But what you want to do is use that same scorecard for when you're trying to hire people, and you can definitely rate them against one another. So instead of like, I really liked him, and it's so arbitrary, like, he doesn't know how to do the job, but he's a nice person, we should bring him in. This really allows you to identify questions and do a behavior-based interview on, like, give me an example of the time that you developed people.
That's a perfect explanation. And for anybody who wants to know further, just look up EOS system. It's really a great system, especially for entrepreneurs. Like, it's structured, it's guided. It doesn't just focus on the tactical. There is and we'll use your words because my dad would say the same thing, warm and fuzzy. And there's a way to kind of put metrics behind things that are intangible, the behaviors. So I highly recommend them. They're amazing. But what I'm curious about, Karla, is who are the leaders that have inspired and influenced you, and what lessons have you taken from them?
Most recently, I was a few years ago attended the Strategic Growth Forum. It's EY's National Entrepreneur of the Year event. And on the stage was Phyllis Newhouse. She's the first Black woman to take a company public via SPAC, Special Purpose Acquisition Corp. It's a different way and a faster way to, instead of having an IPO, she decided, like, I'm going to take my company public via SPAC and do it in 90 days. So she like raised $200 million over COVID, and in 89 days rang the bell for her company going public. And she is absolutely fantastic. If you don't know who she is, look her up. She's absolutely amazing. She worked for Colin Powell. She was in the Army. She has a cybersecurity company. She does all these things. She's all the things. And I had the opportunity to sit down with her while we were at the conference, and she gave me like the gift of time. And what she did was she said, you need an advisory board. These are the 5 roles that you need. Boom, boom, boom. And she's like, well, when are you going to have this done? I said, oh, okay. Q1. She's like, I'll give you 90 days. And so glad that she pushed that for me. Another person is Sam Johnson. He's the number, I can't say, I feel like if I say 3, it might be wrong, but of the Americas. He's a vice chair of Americas for EY. And he said something when we recently had a talk. He said he was coaching someone, and the guy looks at his calendar, and he's like, yeah, we can do this day. He's like, you're looking at your calendar and I'm looking at my watch. And it always just like, sometimes you keep seeing things, like hearing things about time and time being of the essence, and don't wait. And it's like, Alexander Hamilton, there's a million things I haven't done. And everyone was like, why are you writing? Like, you're running out of time. I was thinking about it this morning, and I said, I just always feel like I'm running out of time. And people are like, how do you do so much? And it's like, I've got these people who do these amazing things, and I'm not even going fast enough for it. I also, as far as leadership, I'm in a group called the Bow Collective, and it's Black women business owners that have over $1 million in top line revenue. And it sounds like, oh, whatever. But it's like the top 0-something% of entrepreneurs. We were talking one day, and they were like, yeah, well, my book. It's like, oh, well, when my book came out, oh, yeah, my book. And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm the only person in this group that has not written a book. I didn't write a book. I did. How about that? Was last year. I have a book coming out September 24th. It's supposed to have already been on Amazon this week, but it's going to come. It's called Dark, Dirty, Dangerous. It tells the story of how my family got into manufacturing, the barriers we've had. And it's also very focused on manufacturing of the future. The fact that the employees of the future are going to look like me. They're going to be people of color. They're going to be women. There's going to be immigrants, and that we really need to focus on that. But again, I went down that journey because these women, all of them collectively, are giants to me. I aspire to fit in with them and feel worthy of being around them. And it's such a loving group where pick any one of them, and they are leaders in my heart and mind. I think of Madam C.J. Walker. She's the first female manufacturer as far as my mind can go back. And she was a Black woman, millionaire back in the day. And I think like she could do it during that time where she can even open a bank account without a man's signature. Pick a person and or pick a situation. I have Marsha O'Connor. She runs the O'Connor Group in the Philadelphia area. And she gave me my first, glamorous job in the city as an intern. And she left her company and started an HR company that is in multiple cities. And she's incredible. And she always takes time for me. But my first mentor, my first leadership icon was my grandmother, who she's 97 years old. She had a store/restaurant in her community. In the suburbs of Philly, you have these, like Bluebell has like a Black section that's Penland. Abington has Crestmont. Glenside has North Hills. And she had this restaurant store in North Hills. And all the community would come and get food or get things that they need for their home. And I would see how she would deal with her customers, and everyone knew her name, and how she really was treated as a leader in the community. And really was my first example of customer service. And then my father, who's not my grandmother's child, but my dad having this company was an example of leadership in the sense of how you treat people. It's like I've had kitchen table MBA my whole life, that I just see how other people treat them by example, and that success model has just followed me. And I've been successful in it because I've had successful people teaching me and modeling that behavior.
What's grandma's name? Or I don't know what you call her. What do you call her?
I couldn't say grandma, so it came out Goggy.
Oh, I love Goggy.
But her name is Shirley Scott.
Hi, Shirley Scott. Thank you so much for helping your granddaughter. And what's dad's name?
Jim Wallace.
Jim Wallace. Okay. Well, tell you what, both of you have formulated an incredible leader. So are you okay with some rapid fire questions? They're easy. Okay. All right. So what's your favorite comfort food?
Like a really good chocolate chip with ice cream on it. I don't eat it often, but oh my gosh. I love like a hot chocolate chip cookie.
Okay. And is there a certain flavor ice cream, or are we just doing regular vanilla?
I'm just doing vanilla. Yeah.
Okay. And then have to ask about the chocolate chips, because I'm a dark chocolate kind of girl. Are you semi-sweet or?
I am chocolate agnostic.
Chocolate. I love that. I've never heard that before. Yeah. So any chocolate is welcome in your world.
Like not only white chocolate, but
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either.
Weird.
It is. I don't know. It feels like I don't know, something. I'm not going to even go there. Never mind. Leave that alone. Okay. What books are on your nightstand?
Evie Populus, I think her name is. She's a Greek last name. She is a Secret Service agent, or I guess she's retired. I'm not sure. She was there for the Obama administration, Bush administration. She's amazing. She talks about the things like her journey to becoming a Secret Service agent. I didn't realize how arduous it was. But she takes the tools and things that she's learned and shows you how to use them in everyday life.
I love that. Okay, what songs are on your playlist?
I think the last thing I downloaded was some Janet Jackson because I went to her concert. And then next week I'm going to Missy Elliott. So I was kind of like re-listening to those songs right now. And then Usher, because he's
of course
just amazing. I went to his show in Vegas and I didn't even want to go. My girlfriends are like, we're going. And I can't, he's been a constant on my playlist.
So if you could pick a theme song out of those three artists, what would you pick?
I think my theme song is probably something more like Jill Scott, Living like Golden.
I love her.
Like, I feel like I've been given this gift of entrepreneurship. It's supposed to give you a little bit more flexibility. I have to remind myself that this life allows you to do more than just work.
I think humanity has been given a gift of you. I don't say that lightly, but you are an iconic leader, and I just can't wait to witness what you're going to do next. So last rapid fire question. What are you most grateful for in this moment right now?
I am grateful for humidity protectant. I was just walking out with my dog and my hair. I felt like it was getting bigger and bigger. It's just like, thank God for anti-humectant.
Yes, and if you can like share that with me because my hair is naturally curly, so this is not a great hair day, and like when it's really humid and I grew up in South Florida, my hair looks literally like Tina Turner's. It's
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why? I just spent so much time blow drying you and straightening. But I love that. Okay. So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, either to work with you and your organization or to work with you within the organization, how would they do that?
So you can go for, if you want to get in contact with me for Electrosoft, go electrosoftinc.com. Hopefully my website is up, Karla with a K, Trotman, Trotman.com. If not, hit me on LinkedIn.
Great. Well, Karla, thank you. Thank you. You talked about time as currency, and I believe that that's the most precious gift one human can give to another. And I'm so grateful and thank you for your wisdom and your knowledge for our audience because, I mean, you're literally a model of what it takes to get there. So thank you so much for that. And thank you to our audience for listening. It's our intention here on Hidden Human to inspire you to go out, have authentic conversations, deepen the connections in your life. Thank you so much and make it a great day.